Okay, so I think the record has started. So good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have all of you here at the moment. Like I said, feel free to introduce yourselves because we don't have so much time to do that, and we have a great turnout, and more people are still coming in. So bear with me. I will be doing a lot of administration and also talking as well. My name is Christian Harrison. I'm a reader in leadership in the School of Business and Creative Industries, and we are hosting a research seminar series. And on behalf of our Dean, Professor Dominic Elliott, I'd like to welcome all of you. This has been a very fantastic seminar series we've there since August, and we've had great speakers over time. And today we're going to have a very fantastic seminar. No pressure on Debbie, Louise, and Rhoda, but I think it's one of the seminars that really, when I was talking to Debbie about it, it's one of the seminars that really encompasses everything that we live for. It's a very touching one. I think we're going to benefit so much from it. So before I even start talking about it, that's one of the things that we would benefit from. Clearly, thank you everyone for coming. And I know it's going to run till 2. Most of you are coming from different parts, externally and internally, and you've all registered for this. So thank you very much for that. Of course, we already know the rules of Zoom. So please feel free to run away from your screen if you need to. You don't need to, if you have any external thing you have to do in that sense, please feel free to do that. Like I always say, if there's a fire, please, this is less important. You can leave your screen and run away. But of course, most of the time, it's always very important that you also mute yourself so that it won't affect other people. Apart from that, I'm happy for you to use your videos, and I'm so glad that most of us have their videos on. But if you don't want that, of course, because we might have other things at the background, that's also good as well. But I think that's it for me and trying to tell you guys about the rules. Clearly, we're not here to listen to Christian because Christian talks too much. We're here to learn about dementia research, everyone's business. And before I talk more about that, of course, we'll be listening to 3 people today, and they'll be telling us very great things about dementia research. First is Professor Debbie Thompson. You know her very well. She's, of course, an Alzheimer's Scotland Professor of Dementia. She's the director of the Scotland Centre as well for Policy and Practice in the University of Scotland. She's also a nursing leader, so she has a great internal national reputation. She's the inaugural director of the Alzheimer's Scotland Centre for Policy and Practice, and she's also a fellow of the Royal College of Nursing, principal fellow of the Higher Education Academy, and a recipient of so many awards. We also have Louise as well, who is a reader in the school, also a very keen does a lot of keen work and projects on dementia, and she has gotten so many research grants in that field as well. And we have Rhoda also, that will be talking, also a senior lecturer in the School of Health and Natural Sciences, and with so much expertise on dementia as well. So this 3 wonderful team will be talking to you about dementia. I don't think you can get better than this when you have these 3 people. So no pressure on 3 of them. But I would have read their illustrious bio, but we don't have time to read so much about it, so I have to summarize it. So what we'll be doing in the next couple of minutes is we will let them talk about dementia research, everyone's business. It's everyone's business. So what do we know about dementia? How can we ensure that we learn much more about helping others, especially those with dementia? So I will give the room to Debbie, Louise, and Rhoda in no particular order to start the presentation. Thank you, 3 of you.
Thank you so much, Christian. So I am Debbie, and I'm going to be starting the talk. Can I just check that the slides are sharing? Yeah, okay. So as you have heard, we are from the Alzheimer's Scotland Centre for Policy and Practice. And I know that we have some new students in the mix of the audience today. So if you are new to UWS, or if you're external to UWS, a really warm welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. So dementia research, everyone's business. What we're going to try and do today is explain to you why it might become your business or continue to be your business. So just a few words about the centre. The centre is situated within the School of Health and Life Sciences, and our physical base is at Lanarkshire campus, where you can see the sun is always shining, the skies are always blue. And at Lanarkshire, we have got some wonderful facilities. Some of these are replicated at our other campus sites, but these include simulation laboratories, which are clinical, the Domus, which is a domestic simulation laboratory, and our living lab. Now, the collection of these facilities give us opportunity to involve a host of people in our work. They create a venue and a wonderful platform for a Carers Academy, which I'll tell you about perhaps on another day. But we are so lucky to be at that campus, and we are so lucky to have these resources. And like you, over the last 18, 20 months, we have been working remotely. So we haven't been able to enjoy these facilities, but we're getting back on campus, and we welcome you to come and visit us if you're interested to find out and see more. So what do we do? Well, there's three things that we do: dementia education, applied research, and policy influence. So what's this about? Well, it's about the cycle of evidence. It's about, as a university, our role in generating evidence, but it's also about a very important role we have in helping to ensure that evidence is applied in policy, applied in practice, shaping the services that are there to help people, and shaping the things that we do together, which might be develop new products, new services, new innovations. So 3 things keep us very busy. And what underpins our work is care empathia. And you'll see this wonderful artwork that we have, which captures and embodies the principles of care empathia, our signature approach. It is about influencing and changing the head, the heart, and the hands of everyone who works with us and of everyone who touches dementia. So this means we endeavour to change the way people think about dementia, feel about dementia, and what they do with their hands about dementia. What do you create? How do you help people? We don't have much time today, so we're going to focus on one very important area of our work, and that is applied research. And all of our work, apart from embodying the principles of care empathia, we take forward work that is rights-based, and we take forward our work with and for people whose lives are affected by dementia. For some of you who might be new to the area of dementia, I thought it would be worth just spending a few moments to say what dementia is. So dementia is an umbrella term for a syndrome, and it describes a particular set of consequences from a range of neuroprogressive illnesses. So the experience of having dementia is an experience of living with a life-limiting and progressive illness. As you can see from the slide, there are different diseases, different pathologies that lead to dementia, Alzheimer's being the most common, followed by vascular dementia. And you'll see there are other rarer forms of dementia. And when we update this slide, I think we're probably going to have to add in COVID and long COVID to that. And we don't know what the consequences are, but you will have read in the media something called brain fog. And we know that brain health is affected by COVID. So dementia is used as an umbrella term, but it is an illness experience. It is not a social problem. What happens if you have dementia is you have an underlying disease or an incident that has compromised your brain health, and it's deteriorating your brain health. Now, some of the symptoms are very well known. People often think it's just about memory loss, but it is so much more, and it depends on the underlying etiology. And you see from this slide the different things and ways it impacts on people. Yes, of course, it's about memory loss for many, but not necessarily the first sign. Reduced thinking speed, difficulty understanding, losing your way, not being able to understand things that you used to know so well. It can affect your emotions. It can affect how you experience the world through sensory changes. It will have a profound effect on every aspect of your life. The person you are, the way you can engage and interact with the environment, your relationships with people, your ability to work. And what happens as dementia progresses or the underlying illness progresses is your brain health deteriorates. And there comes a point where not only your brain health deteriorates, but your bodily health deteriorates. So in the early stages, people might be able to live reasonably well and independently. But as dementia advances, dependency increases, as does the complexity of symptoms and experiences that people have. So is it a big problem? Well, it's certainly a big problem if you're the person with the diagnosis, but it's also a big problem around the world. It is estimated that 50 million people have dementia, and you can see the annual cost, $1 trillion. The projections are that the number of people with dementia will increase significantly. The statistics are quite scary. In the UK, about 850,000 people have a diagnosis of dementia. And the one that really frightens me is that 40,000 diagnosed before the age of 65. And yet we often talk about this as an experience of old age. And in Scotland, we have approximately 90,000 people with dementia. And very roughly on an annual basis, about 20,000 people are newly diagnosed in Scotland, and about 20,000 die with dementia. The cost to our health and social care services are high, 34.7 billion across the UK, and it is estimated that the cost per person is over 32,000. That's a lot of money. But the cost is just one part of this equation. It has an impact on everybody whose lives are touched by that experience of dementia, on partners, husbands, wives, children, and of course the person. So if you can remember just a few things about these numbers, 1 in 14 people over 65 years of age have dementia. 1 in 6 people over the age of 80 years have dementia. That means in your lifetime, in my lifetime, we are likely to know somebody with dementia. They may be very close to us. It may be us. So if the scale of the problem doesn't make this your business, and one day it might, let's just think about the research that happens, because there are a lot of people researching in this area. Why do we do dementia research, and what might it look like? We do dementia research for a very simple reason: to help people who have dementia, to help people whose brain health is progressively deteriorating through all sorts of different reasons. Now, in Scotland, we're very lucky. We have the Scottish Dementia Research Consortium. This is a big network. There are over 700 members actively researching some aspect of dementia. Louise and I are on the executive committee, and there are 5 themes that you can see there that the researchers are engaged in across Scotland. Our biggest contribution from our centre here at UWS is living with dementia. That means you have a diagnosis. How do we support you? How do we care for you? How do we support your family? There's the fundamental sciences, diagnosis, informatics, and dementia prevention. And the SDRC looked at, well, how much money comes into Scotland through dementia research? And it's a bit of an imprecise science, so we did some mapping going back 5 years, and in 2019, we estimated that £185 million of new money comes into Scotland through dementia research. Now, that is an underestimation because there's lots of small studies going on that are not necessarily labelled in a way or funded by the funders that we would find it on our mapping exercise. The amount for 2020 that we could capture has obviously been impacted by the redirection of research money to COVID. But what you'll see there is an interdisciplinary mix and a breadth of research happening in Scotland. Now, as dementia researchers in Scotland, we're quite restless beasts, and we're quite impatient with policy, and we're quite impatient with funding. And we want to make sure that research is helpful and is really helping the lives. So what we have done with the endorsement of the Scottish Government is we have crafted and launched Scotland's first brain health and dementia research strategy. And it's a really important strategy in terms of making sure that our research is helpful, coordinated, collegiate, inclusive, and interdisciplinary. The intention of this first strategy, which has a 4-year life, is to create an infrastructure to allow dementia research in all its shapes and forms to thrive in Scotland and get stronger. It creates an infrastructure to accelerate getting of research into practice. We don't want to wait 17 years before great research makes a difference to people's lives. We want it to get into practice as soon as possible. So this strategy encourages and enables collaborations across universities, within universities, extending to services, different sectors, business, industry, and working with each other and with people whose lives are affected by dementia as partners in research, not just subjects. As you're thinking, is dementia research for you and what's your motivation for that? Not just maybe there's some funding out there you haven't thought about. I just want to close my introduction here on some current realities. What's been happening in the pandemic? So yes, we've got a lovely first in the world, actually, brain health and research strategy. But what has been happening to people? You will have heard in the newspapers, you've heard on the radio and the media, people with dementia and their families have been disproportionately affected by dementia. Worldwide, 25% of COVID deaths have been of people with dementia. There have been cries and accusations of ageism and sacrificing our most vulnerable. There have been criticisms and stories about how people with dementia and COVID didn't get acute care. Is that right? Is that wrong? That is a moral judgment I leave to you. But what's been happening here in Scotland? People have been reporting and experiencing faster dementia deteriorations. They're getting worse quicker, increased admissions, crisis admissions to long-term care or into care homes, increased levels of stress and trauma and anxiety for family carers. And just an example of this, the Alzheimer's Scotland Dementia Telephone Helpline has had a 30% increase in calls. And these calls have become calls that are quite extreme, crisis situations, high-risk situations. Be you the person with the diagnosis or be you the family member who's been shielding, profoundly affected by feelings of loneliness, social isolation, grief and loss. And this is our call to action as an academic community, as a stakeholder community, as collaborators, to see whether we can bring our academic opportunities to rest within dementia research and address some of these huge challenges. And I'd now like to invite Louise to pick up from me and tell you a little bit more about the research we do and that you might want to get involved in, just to give you some ideas in a little bit more detail. Louise.
Thanks, Debbie. And hi, everybody. It's lovely to see so many people here today. So as Debbie mentioned, we're focusing today on applied research. So we've wanted to kind of showcase the types of research that we've done and are currently doing within the centre, hopefully just to give you a taste of the potential for becoming involved in dementia research and show you the interdisciplinary nature of the work that we do so far. So we've tried to group the research that we do into themes here. Now, these aren't perfect and there's much overlap between them, but they link closely to the UN Sustainable Development Goals 3 and 10. So promoting good health and well-being and reduced inequalities. So I'll talk you through Rhoda and I will talk you through some specific project examples in a wee second, but just to give you an overview of the work that we do so far, we've categorised it into these 3 themes. So the first one is addressing inequalities. And Debbie's made a good argument there. People living with dementia face inequalities every day as a result of their diagnosis, and these have been heightened through the pandemic. However, once they have a diagnosis of dementia, there's lots of complexities that come into that experience, which can heighten existing inequalities and bring new inequalities that haven't often been considered. And our research in this area aims to try and amplify the quiet voices within those people living with dementia, to look at areas where people are facing inequalities that we perhaps didn't expect and you wouldn't expect from a diagnosis of dementia straight away. So whether that's someone who is still employed when they're diagnosed with dementia, facing inequalities in the workplace, or someone who's in prison facing inequalities, we are passionate about trying to find ways to research these areas, which are often under-researched for various reasons, to ensure that we amplify those quiet voices and positively impact the lives of people living with dementia. The second theme is caring and therapeutic interventions, and these are just a couple of examples of the types of projects that we do. So we have things like art-based and creative interventions, including the use of music and songwriting with people with dementia. I actually saw someone posting about theatre company on the chat today, which would be interesting to follow up with as well, and maybe interested in the work that we've already done there. We have previously worked in sports related and animal-based interventions and more therapeutic interventions such as complementary therapy. It's important to recognise here at this point that we're not just talking about interventions and support for people living with dementia. Our research also covers support and interventions for people who are caring for someone with dementia as well, and other people affected by dementia. And that's where our Innovative Carers Academy comes in. That's an intervention that is designed to support family carers of people with dementia and help them to learn skills and techniques while they're in their caring role. And our research just now is just developing in this area, but we're excited to update you that at another date. The final theme is linked to that, and that our research also covers our educational offerings, and we research our dementia education and understand how dementia education can implement or impact in their workforce and practice development area. So we develop different research projects that evaluates the impact of our dementia education on the workforce to understand how evidence-informed education promotes good health and well-being for people living with dementia. Can I have the next slide, please, Debbie? The other thing that we're really passionate about in the centre is the involvement of people affected by dementia. So we work closely through project development right through to project delivery and reporting with people who are diagnosed with dementia and family carers of people with dementia. So with our partners at Alzheimer's Scotland, the Scottish Dementia Working Group, and ND-CAN, which is the National Dementia Carers Action Network. We have people involved from the kind of conception point of projects, so that we know that we are researching areas that mean and matter to the people living with the condition, and that the research that we do will have impact in the lives of those living with the condition as well. This picture here is an example of some of the work that we've done through the pandemic with the Scottish Dementia Working Group. And that was a picture of me discussing the start-up of a new project looking at dementia in the workplace, which I'll speak about a wee bit more in the next slide, please, Debbie. So the first example of the programme of research that we've been working on over the last couple of years, to give you a bit of a taster of where or how our research develops, is our research on dementia in the workplace. So this started in 2013 with a project funded by the Alzheimer's Society that was a result of a collaboration between Debbie and Professor Pauline Banks and Professor Mike Danson, who some of you may remember was worked at UWS in the business school and then worked at Heriot Watt before he retired in the last couple of years. That was the first sort of interdisciplinary collaboration in this area. This was a seminal project where no one had ever looked at what happens to somebody who's still working when they're diagnosed with dementia. That project was actually employed me as a research assistant. Excuse me a sec. I'll be glad I'm not in the same room as you. I'm loaded with a cold. Yeah, so that project was the first project in the UK to look at what happens to someone who's diagnosed with dementia while they're still in the workplace. And it was my way into UWS, so that's when I started my employment with UWS. That project identified that people with dementia could continue working post-diagnosis if they had the appropriate support. But for many people, they didn't get the support that they needed. This then led us on to a collaboration with Professor Jill Stavert at Edinburgh Napier University and Dr. Valerie Egdell, who's in Northumbria University now. Jill is a law professor and Valerie is in the business school in Northumbria University. And we collaborated with them on a Carnegie Trust collaborative grant, which explored the policies and practices of employers towards people with dementia and looked at it with regards to human rights and employment law, and found that our employers hadn't really considered the need for supporting employment for people with dementia, and there was a gap needing to be addressed there to make sure that people got the support that they required. That led on to our dissemination grant, which helped us to develop some resource to go some way to start to address the gap that we'd identified. And those resources are available on our Alzheimer's Scotland Centre for Policy and Practice website to download, but they provide information for various groups of people who may be interested or may be supporting someone with dementia. So that includes colleagues in the workforce, managers, HR professionals. And that brings us to where we are today. So this week, in fact, our newest project in this area started, and that became, that is a collaboration with the people I have already mentioned so far, and Dr. Emma Bolger, who's a colleague in Education and Social Sciences School and is a lecturer in Careers Guidance and Development. And this project will, as it says there, work with people with dementia and various other professionals to co-produce an intervention using career guidance and development principles to support people living with dementia when they have issues around about employment and to make decisions around employment. So we're looking forward to seeing this project develop, and we'll report back on that at a later date. Can I have the next slide? Thank you, Debbie. The final project I'll talk about before handing on to Rhoda, and my voice gives up completely, is the Class in a Bag. So some of you may have already heard of Class in a Bag. Class in a Bag is an innovation that came out of our undergraduate nursing programme. It started as a solution to supporting nursing students who were going out into primary schools to deliver health promotion education. And they had a bag of resources that were really helpful in teaching children to understand dementia. Through our work with the nursing programme staff, the nursing students themselves, we worked together to develop Understanding Dementia Class in a Bag, which is a teaching resource which is now available to buy through UWS and is being marketed for different areas. So there's a version that children can be used with children, can be used with adults, and can be used in various settings. This work has led to us developing research around about dementia, and we, through the UWS Crucible programme in 2017, I collaborated with Dr. Susan Henderson in the School of Education and Social Science to develop some pedagogical research around about how children learn using the Class in a Bag, and we asked them to film their experiences as they're doing it to help us see the process of learning. We've also carried out some international work to try and develop a culturally sensitive version of Class in a Bag that will help family carers in India through our partnership with Manipal College of Nursing in South India. So it's an exciting development and can show how those innovations coming from our teaching and learning programmes can be the instigator to developing research and further developing enterprise within the centre as well. So I'll pass on now to Rhoda, who's going to speak through a couple more of our projects.
Thanks, Louise. Hi, everybody. So nice to see everybody here today. And I see Ailey's in the audience. Thanks for coming, Ailey. Ailey and I worked on the walking football project. So a big shout out to Ailey. And I'm actually going to thank you later on, Ailey, for something that you've been involved, really taken off actually since that project. But before I go on to do that, I thought it'd be helpful just to highlight another couple of projects that we are, well, one is that is just starting and the other one that we've done, and it's really to highlight some of the interdisciplinary nature of our projects, so to encourage you to think creatively and a bit out of the box in terms of how you can how you view dementia research and how you think you might be able to become involved and collaborate with us, but also to think about the unusual places that you think that you may not necessarily associate with dementia research. So what you see on your screen at the moment is a poster presentation that's just going into an international conference about a project that's just started this year that I'm PI on. So Debbie's on the team along with James Taylor, our head of division, and Kirsten Anderson from the School of Education and Social Sciences, and we've also got external collaborators from the University of Edinburgh, and they're an old age psychiatrist and a forensic psychiatrist respectively there. So you kind of think, well, dementia in prison, well, it's not the place that you would maybe associate finding people with dementia, but people with dementia are everywhere in our society, and they're in prison too. So this study will look at how we support the healthcare teams and the prison staff to improve the health and well-being of this population, which is an increasing population. We're seeing a rise in the older people in prison, and we're also seeing a rise in people in prison who have cognitive impairments and or dementia. So dementia diagnosis can be tricky to get in the community, but it's even more complex if you're in prison or you go into prison with an existing diagnosis, and both of these things happen. So that's going to be a large part of my professional life over the next 18 months, 2 years, to work with the prison staff and the healthcare staff and those involved in their social and spiritual care to collaboratively design a referral diagnostic and post-diagnostic pathway for this group of people, and also to work with them to come up with an implementation action plan that will really support the promotion of later life well-being within this group. Thanks, Louise. Can I get Debbie, sorry, the next slide. Thank you. So one of the other projects that we were involved in, and this project has finished, but actually has a really long-lasting legacy. And this was the Palair project, and Debbie led this project. It was a European project that involved 7 countries. We were one of them. We were the lead partner in this project. It was a 2-year project, and this was actually the way that I got into starting to work at UWS as well, a bit like Louise, the project that started my long-standing relationship with UWS. So this project was about creating educational solutions, if you like, interventions for the workforce. But in order to do those, we gathered lots and lots of evidence to do that with our 6 European partners. And the outputs from that project are with us today. So one of the main outputs was that we produced a best practice statement that's in use now in Europe. And it's actually part of the new quality criteria to improve care in the long-term facilities in the Czech Republic. It's been integrated in different ways in practice in our other partner countries as well. And the other educational outputs from this project were 4 modules. And these evidence-informed modules are now the cornerstone of our Masters in Gerontology with Dementia Care. And I think for me that really illustrates the pathway, if you like, and the relationship between our education and our research. The other important part of this project is that this has really gone on to influence policy, and the literature that we did informed some modelling for supports for people with dementia, and it's also gone on to impact in influencing the Scottish Fair Care Dementia Campaign, which is a campaign to make care fairer for people with dementia, because they are subject to sometimes disproportionate financial difficulties around the costs of care. So our work has also influenced that, and you can read more about that on the link there. Can I move on to the next slide? Yeah, so I suppose this slide brings together some of what Debbie's been saying and Louise has been saying about our research, and how we are really, really passionate about getting our research into practice, policy and education quickly. So we have got a number of pathways to impact, and we have just, Debbie and Louise led on our impact case study. And so we have a dementia impact case study that went into the ref just there. And it draws on a lot of the work that we've talked about today. And our pathways to impact really enabled that, and as well as hopefully you can see how our research has had real world impact. And quickly. We're not keen on hanging around. So Debbie, I'm going to hand over to you in case you want to say anything more about our impact advantage there before inviting any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Rhoda, and thank you, Louise. So if you're concerned, particularly as an academic, or if you're concerned about doing something relevant and helpful, we describe it as our impact advantage card. So we work with Scotland's leading dementia charity. We are a partnership centre with that charity and the university, but we're also part of the Scottish Consortium, and we have this amazing research strategy that's going to help us even more. So our relationships that we bring to the fore can help you to involve people in your research and help you to plan ways to influence policy to create things that can get into practice. So if you are interested and you do see dementia research, even if it sounds a little bit out there, we'd love to talk to you because we love the out there research. We would very much like to help you not only plan your research and help you find potential collaborators, but we'd love to help you to learn from the things we've learned and the people who help us get our research into practice. Rev 28 for the academics isn't far away. It might seem a long way away, but we really need to be pragmatic in how we go forward. We have an advantage card and we're happy to share it with you.
Thanks, Debbie. So last but not least, we'd just like to alert you to some potential funding that may be coming your way. So this is the connection with Ailey here. So Ailey and I did a project for the RS McDonald Trust a couple of years ago on looking at walking football, and Debbie has done some work for the RS McDonald Trust as well. And Debbie and I have been very fortunate to be funded by the RS McDonald for a seed corn, an institutional seed corn award. So we're going to be leading that, and it's a themed call called Living the Best Life Possible. And the purpose of the seed corn is to grow early career researchers and capacity for innovative interdisciplinary applied dementia research within and across UWS. So it's an opportunity to work with you all and work with across the 4 schools. So I'm not going to talk too much about the fund today, but what I will say is that the launch of the fund will be on the 2nd of December, and we're organising that event right now as we speak. So if you can't, it will be in Paisley. If you can't come in person, you can join virtually, and it will also be recorded, and more details will be coming out about that soon. Debbie and I will hold a workshop for potential applicants probably in January in the new year, and we haven't got a firm deadline date, but it's very likely to be spring next year. So just a bit of a heads up that if you've got some ideas and you think, oh, I'd like to explore that, that may be an opportunity, a funded opportunity to do that. Thank you. So we would like to invite any questions, I think.
Thank you very much, Rhoda, Louise, and Debbie, for the lovely presentation. I think right from Rhoda's expertise to Louise's expertise and all the grants that 3 of you have gotten, I think that can't even fill a big basket, because it was all like you guys sharing all the expertise that you have. So I would like people to ask questions. So you got the presentation about dementia. So any questions for Rhoda, Louise, or Debbie, anything you want to ask, this is the time for you to ask questions. Any questions at all for them? Okay, I can see Jane.
Yes. Is it possible to access dementia training from the Lanarkshire campus, from the research, the dementia research units?
In a simple word, yes, but it depends what you want. If people want to work with us to develop research grants, we will work with you rather than give you a formal dementia training. But we have a number of short courses and skill-based courses. So if you're interested in something, come and have a chat with one of us. Just drop us an email and we can see what it is. We might have something we've done before that we can slot in. It might be, it depends what you're looking for. Is there something in specific, Jane?
Yes, because I had been working until last year when I started at UWS, I've been working for about 20 years with people who have dementia in dementia care settings, but I'd never had any formal dementia training. So I was looking for a course that was quite comprehensive, but something that gave a more overall picture of you know.
Come and talk to us, or better still, I'll put you in contact with Margaret Brown, who's my deputy there and leads on our dementia education. And I'm sure Margaret, I think Margaret was here, I saw her earlier, will be able to help you. But drop one of us an email and we'll follow up with you, Jane.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks very much, Jane. And Adam. Adam, you're muted.
There you go, I got it. I would just like to ask all three of the speakers, first of all, thank you. It was really informative about the structure of UWS as well with regards to dementia research. I would just like to know, with the importance of public engagement with research and the kind of public appearance of your research and affiliation with UWS, is there a place you can point us to, or someone you can maybe get to speak to us about how to have good social media's role in that ability to have community engagement and to have engagement with councils and such?
Yes, we can. Louise, Rhoda, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I can come in a bit. I wouldn't say that I'm a social media expert. We do support that, that's for sure. But we do have an active. So we've got our centre Twitter account and we've got a centre Facebook account, and we've all got our individual Twitter accounts as well. And we do use that quite a lot. And we also, when we're putting on all our teaching, we have a live stream to all our social media down the side of our modules. So we do try and incorporate that for sure. I think in terms of getting our work out there, I think our strategic partnerships are really important. And we also have our centre has a lot of associates wrapped around it. So we work a lot with people in practice. And indeed, one of our team is somebody who is in practice but works with us 1 day a week. So I think sort of making use of all of those points of contact is really helpful. Do you want to say anything else about that, Louise?
So I guess it's as Rhoda says. So tell me your question again, Adam.
It's just about how, obviously, being ethical and stuff on social media and want to share as much with the public about your research and with the people you're researching with and their family and stuff. Is there a right and a wrong way to do that? I mean, to just download some filters and go for it and start sharing things obviously is really unethical. Is there a nice way to keep that ethics ingrained in what you're doing? Is there a place to get advice for that stuff?
I think no, there's not really a place to get advice. I think a lot of us are just learning as we go, but I would advise caution more in your approach. Be really careful about what you're putting out there and how it might be received. And I think that's something that we try and do as we're working on social media and being more visible. Margaret's saying there is guidance from DEEP, from people with dementia about how to use social media, and you'll find that there's lots of people living with dementia who are very, very active on social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great tool to communicate with it and to share information with people. Mm-hmm. But again, it's just about caution and being careful with what you're putting out there and not putting anybody into a vulnerable position and causing distress with what you're putting out there as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Cheers.
So we can help you find, if you're interested in that question, we can help you find the guidelines. We can also have a chat with you just to give you a few tips about language. There's a lot of contested language which wouldn't go down well. But we do work very closely with groups of people with dementia. We've mentioned the working group, which is a group of people with a diagnosis who are really leading things. And we have involvement from our family carers through their action network, but we're a partnership with Alzheimer's Scotland. So I think if you are working in this space and area, perhaps come and get to know us a little bit, and we can share with you what we've learned about it. And there are many resource sites that we can point to you to get you started, or maybe we can help you find some people affected by dementia with a lived experience who might be helpful critical companions for you.
That'd be great. Thanks very much. Amazing.
And there's some links up there for you, Adam, that our kind colleagues have been scooting about the World Wide Web finding for you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers.
I'm not sure if that is, I'm not sure that there's a comment in the chat, Christian, from Adele, but I'm not.
I think it's more like
I
Margaret.
think, is that a humorous chat?
I think it's just more like Margaret giving us so many links and
yeah, Margaret's guides. Yeah, but there's also one from Adele.
Okay, let me see. I'm trying to see. I didn't see. Ayodele. Okay, I missed that. Sorry. Can continuous pressure from study lead to dementia? So I think Ayodele is an associate lecturer in the school and also doing his PhD. So I guess he's trying to say that can continuous pressure lead to dementia? So maybe that's a good question. So
yeah, it is a great question. And if you were reading the newspapers yesterday, you might have seen some research from Australia, which has looked at how high blood pressure in midlife can really affect your risk of having vascular dementia. So what I would say to you is, if you're feeling the stresses and strains of whatever role you're doing at the moment and you're juggling so many things, look after yourself, be compassionate to yourself, and do things that promote your physical health and keep your blood pressure down. There are 12 known risk factors for the dementia, and if you just Google Brain Health Scotland, you will find some amazing information and things you can do to help lower the risks, particularly the lifestyle choices that you can make to lower your risk of getting dementia.
But as Margaret said in the chat there, education and keeping your brain active can actually be protective as well. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
I think even Angela gave us, Angela wrote something there as well. And there's a link from Angela about, I think, brain health.
Yeah.
Scott, so that's good. Either way, thanks very much. I know we're just a minute to two, and I don't want us to go beyond the time, but it was fantastic, great presentation by Rhoda, Louise, and Debbie. Thank you very much for presenting your rich research to us, and also about the center. One of the things that Rhoda ended well with is there's going to be a seed fund coming up, so please watch that space. So one of the things that most people think, when people think of dementia, they always feel, oh, it's only health research. No, it's not just health research. Like they all said it, from football to business, it's all interdisciplinary. So if you're really interested, please, we'll be reaching out to you with the launch. So please get involved. It's something that's everyone's business. So it needs to be all our business. And that's why that presented today, so that we can buy into it and try to see how we can support people going forward. Especially with COVID, everything that Debbie said, you can say the statistics are not so good. So we need to ensure that we can manage dementia going forward. And we have a fantastic team, and they will push us and tell us what to do in the right way. So either way, thanks three of you again. It's great to have you. And thanks everyone for attending. I hope you had a fantastic time. I hope it was beneficial. And in the next 2 weeks, on the 20th, we're going to be having another research seminar, and that's going to be about publishing in business and management. We're going to have 2 editors-in-chief from business history and also from entrepreneurship, and they'll be telling you what editors are looking for. So we have a blockbuster package for you, so keep attending, and I'm sure you will never get tired. So thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.